Hi, and welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner. I am your host, Tiffanie Devan, and today I am excited because we are going to have a hearty discussion all about PA Maslow, a hierarchy of collegiate basic needs. This discussion is going to take place with me, as well as several of our PDE or Pennsylvania Department of Education associates here. And I'm going to welcome them on, and I'm going to welcome back two of them. So the first of my guests that I'd like everyone to know about is Dr. Kim McCurdy. She's the Bureau Director of Postsecondary and Adult Education. She's also been, I think she's been on my podcast more than anyone else. So I feel like she should be a co-host, just a permanent co-host coming on. So welcome back, Kim. I'm also going to welcome back Karen Rubican. She's a school counselor liaison in the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education at PDE. And for some of you, if you remember when Karen was on before, she was in a different role. So congratulations on this role. And I'm looking forward to what you'll have to share with us regarding all of your knowledge and expertise here at PDE. And then finally, welcome to our first timer here today, Lynette Kuhn. She's the Division Chief for Higher Education Access and Equity, both within the Office of Postsecondary and Higher Education at PDE. So again, welcome and welcome back to all of you all to the Higher Education Access Corner.
Thanks for having us.
And then also for everybody who's listening, and for the most part, you all already know that this whole podcast is all about access and affordability to those students and PA learners, not just PA, but learners who are trying to get into some type of post-secondary school, whether it's a college or a career school. Affordability is key, access is key in getting you there. But what happens once you're there? Sometimes students are faced with challenges and some difficulties. On average, we know that for a student who plans to go to a 2-year school, it's taking them about 3 years in order to complete that. For someone who plans to go for an undergraduate 4-year degree, it's taking on average 5.5 years. And sometimes it's not a straight process that gets them all the way through. They're faced with life challenges. A lot of times I say when I'm talking to folks, hey, life happens, so kind of like life is lifing is what I say as a term. And you never know what types of difficulties beyond just the financial piece that a student is dealing with. You can get to the school, but then what happens next? So I'm happy to have Kim, Lynette, and Karen on because they're going to talk about something that is new and exciting here in PA. It's called PA Maslow, a hierarchy of collegiate basic needs. So let's get right into it with everything. I'll start out with Kim. Can you explain PA Maslow and kind of like where did this work come from? Where's everything come from?
Sure. And thanks again for having us. I think what you were saying about the financial piece, it's really important because not only is it taking students longer to complete a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, but we have a lot of students who are not getting through at all. And so they're coming out of school a lot of times with debt and they don't have a credential. And so sometimes it's the financial piece, but there are other barriers that students are facing. So we know that nearly 3 in 5 students experience some kind of basic needs insecurity. So that could be housing, it could be food, it could be a variety, mental health needs, it could be a variety of things. We know that 35% of our students experience moderate anxiety, and 60% of students have at least one mental health issue. We know from the Hope Center research, 39% of our students at 2-year institutions and 29% of our students at a 4-year institution are food insecure. So they may not have enough, with just the meal plan at the institution. They may be living off campus, and so they don't have a meal plan, and they need to be able to access quality nutrition to be able to do what they need to do to graduate. We know that 48% of students were housing insecure in 2021. We know the pandemic exacerbated a lot of these things. I think you and I have had a conversation about the pandemic in the past. So in addition to all of that, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men experience sexual violence on campus. So safety is a big piece of PA Maslow as well. We know the average age of a college student is about 26. So what that means is some students might have gone to college in the past, they weren't successful, they're coming back. Some may have delayed going to an institution, maybe they couldn't afford it the first time, or life happens and those kinds of things. We have a lot of part-time students now working full-time jobs. We have a lot of parenting learners. And so some campuses really are able to support their parenting learners. They may even provide housing opportunities for our parenting learners. Some campuses may be just getting started in this work. And so there's not a lot of support for those learners. And so if they don't get what they need, sometimes you pick your family over finishing that degree, or you figure, I'm just going to work for a little bit and do what I need to do, and then I'll come back to it, when I get a chance. So PA Maslow, we had been doing a lot of collegiate basic needs. Some of, Tiffanie, but some of the folks listening may not know, I used to work at FIA prior to coming to PDE. So in our work, and I was in the Pittsburgh area, we were working on collegiate basic needs, probably from 2015, 2016. In that area, there were a group of institutions coming together. There were convenings with professional development opportunities for folks to start learning about how to start up a food pantry on your campus, or how to make sure that you have support for students who don't have fixed housing over breaks or during the summertime. And so those conversations had been happening a lot regionally when I worked for FIA. And then coming through the pandemic, working for PDE, I started traveling to a variety of campuses all across the state. And what we're finding is that there are a lot of really great things happening in these pockets all across Pennsylvania, but a lot of conversation and collaboration isn't happening. And so PA Maslow was really created to be the connective tissue, to bring all of those people together, all of those efforts together, to say, this is happening in Pittsburgh and this is happening up in the northeast corner of Pennsylvania. And let's share what we're doing. And, oh, I didn't think to do that, so we're going to incorporate that into the programming. And, oh, that's a really great idea. Or, I haven't really even been thinking about this on my campus. And so we really kind of are at stage one. Can I talk to somebody who's maybe, 5 years into this process? And like, what are the little pieces that I can do to kind of really get started? So we really want to be connecting all of the folks across the state. We had a convening last October. But really it's about sharing practices and making sure that students, no matter what institution that they're attending, no matter what part of the state they're attending, that they're getting what they need to be able not only to get to their campus, but to get through their program.
Thanks. And for those who are listening in, it sounds like it's definitely a collaborative effort. So it's PDE. We have the post-secondary schools. Are there any other entities that are kind of working together to kind of make this a success, help make it a success?
Absolutely. So we have community-based organizations at the table. We have legislators that are interested in this work. We had a PA Maslow launch at Cedar Crest College, and so highlighting the work that they're doing up there, but we had just a variety of educational partners in the room. So it's anyone who wants to, make sure that students are successful. We want them at the table. We want their good thinking and their best ideas, their best practices. So anyone can be at the table. We even have some other states that have joined PA Maslow so that they can learn from what we're doing and we can learn from them as well.
Great. And so I do remember quite some time ago, a long time ago, in psychology class, there was that Maslow's hierarchy of needs and a theory. So I'm going to switch to Lynette, and can you walk us through the pillars of the work and kind of explain like the basics for Maslow's hierarchy and how it applies to the PA Maslow concept?
Absolutely. So when we think of Maslow, and just going back to our days and our psychology courses, you really look at safety and belonging. And while that's one of the pillars, I want to make clear that these pillars are not listed in an order of hierarchy or an order of need. They are all equally important and they all intersect in certain areas. So right now we have 6 pillars, and they range from digital equity, we have housing security, we have mental health, physical health, adult student needs, and safety and belonging. And again, each of them intersect, and there are different points that will cross over to another pillar. So again, not in importance of need or hierarchy, And that's really important because you never know what a student's going to need on that specific day, but great resources within each of them. So just starting at the top of the way we have them listed right now, we have digital equity, and we mentioned that lovely word pandemic and what we went through going on 4 years now, where we really learned that a lot of learners across the Commonwealth just didn't have access to digital broadband. And really, this opened our eyes when everybody got sent home and we had to access all of our work and life needs through the internet. So that pillar really encompasses making sure that you have broadband access in the area, what resources are available for students, and talking about just the needs of equipment and digital literacy so that students are able to complete their classwork. Housing security, Kim mentioned the statistics for our housing insecure, and you don't know where you're going after class. How can you really focus on the tests that you have or the work that you need to do? So really focus on affordable housing, what options are available for the students. We talk about our foster youth throughout this pillar and making sure that they have a safe space to go. And really, again, and you can see I'm using that word safe because all of these are intersecting in each and every area. Kim mentioned about just the collaborative nature of this work throughout the Commonwealth. We've seen a lot of great discussion on the housing security and institutions working together when there's empty dorms or community housing in the area that can be utilized and leveraged to help students across multiple institutions and not just siloed to one area. Mental health, this is one of our largest pillars. We are really diving into it. Doing a lot of work. Kim mentioned about the states kind of coming together. Pennsylvania is one of the states that are working with a SHIO-JET collaboration and really just learning how we can support through state policy and procedures, supporting our institutions, supporting those first responders on campus, and making sure that those resources are available for everybody from administration to faculty to staff to be able to have these resources at their hands to provide to students who need help in the mental health aspect. For physical health, we have, just those health needs. Students get sick, the basic needs, where the health centers are. We also talk about food insecurity in this area. We have what's known as PA Hunger-Free Campus. We have our designations. We have over 60 plus institutions within the Commonwealth that are designated as PA Hunger-Free campuses. And it's just a great opportunity, again, for that collaborative work and making sure that the resources offered on campus are able to be resourced and provided to the students so that they receive that healthy nutrition that they may not get anywhere else. The next pillar is adult student needs, and this really is focusing on supporting adults and parent learners. Again, we talked about that the average age of the post-secondary student is 26, and parenting learners really have that extra burden of not only worrying about their own needs, but their child's needs, and really looking at those specific needs of the adult learners. We will be launching what is known as a parent grant pathway opportunity for institutions. So stay tuned for some information on that coming in early spring. And then finally, the safety and belonging. We really talk about how students need to feel safe. This is where they spend a lot of their time. You don't know what's going to happen on campus or off campus. Knowing what resources are available and making sure that those students feel safe in each and every area of their lives is critical to the success for them to persist, actually obtain and complete post-secondary education. So this goes from everything from sexual violence prevention to how do you plan for natural disasters? What resources are available for accidents? And how can you plan at the institution for, unfortunately, we see it all too often, these mass casualties that happen across our nation. So really working together, intersecting and making sure that, again, the students are the lens. And I love a presentation that Kim gave a while ago. It was, you enrolled me, now how can you support me? And these pillars help support that work.
And and you've kind of broken that down in I think an excellent way, easy for folks to understand. It's a lot of pieces that go into it. And a lot of times when we're talking to the students, just on the high school level, we're talking about them going on to school. We talk about, okay, let's get you there. Did you do you have the right GPA? Did you complete your applications? Did you do all these other things? And then we have the conversations on financial aid. We also have the conversations about making sure it's a good fit. And sometimes this is the piece we forget to really expound upon, or maybe not even forget. It's just that we don't all have the tools, resources, and knowledge. So it's good that this information is coming about and that you guys have this, so that the more information you all can put out there, the better equipped everyone is at every level to assist students, to assist families, or just all of our learners. So
But Tiffanie,
Karen,
don't you think,
since
sorry, don't you think that
No.
there's such a stigma around some of these things? And so one of the things we're going to try to do is an anti-stigma campaign and just let folks know, but you can't help them with something that they haven't revealed to you. So I think that's the other piece. You're a financial aid expert. And so sometimes they might not tell you that they're a homeless student, they're couch surfing, those kinds of things. So I think one of the things we want to make sure for PA Maslow is that everybody realizes everybody needs help, everybody asks for help, and it might be a season of your life that you're going to need this assistance, and then you're going to be great. It might be you're going to need a piece here and you're going to need a piece here. But we're going to put all those together. So I think as much as we can let everybody know that all of this is happening to a lot of people. It's not like this is only happening to me, and so I don't want to ask for help or, those kinds of things. So I think I just wanted to point that out, and hopefully soon we'll be launching an anti-stigma campaign as well.
I'm glad you did, because that is something that, we experience just as access partners, and not just access partners. And just to make sure, we have resources, and we'll say, hey, there's funding available if you're experiencing this or experiencing that. And I'm just talking from the financial aid standpoint, just because that's my background with it. And there are a lot of families who are just afraid to ask. Students are embarrassed. And I remember there was some time ago, I was attending a workshop, and some of the things and tips that they were giving to us, they were saying, hey, make your information available to them. Even though you're going to have a conversation, you're inviting them to share, they may not want to step out of their comfort zone and let all their other students know, hey, I'm really homeless. I know that there's more funding for me, but I don't want everyone to know. Maybe they're in an abusive situation, or whatever the scenario is. Sometimes you have children who are kind of like doing everything as a parent, and still trying to go to school and make it work. And some of the things they were saying is have pamphlets that are available, because sometimes if it's just in a guidance office, or if it's, in your local libraries, here's the information, and make it stand out. They can grab it, and maybe they'll be comfortable grabbing it because you've told them this is where the information's at. And then when they build up a confidence, they can then reach out and get the resources and the help that they need. It doesn't always work, but I think the conversations, like you were saying, to kind of normalize the fact that it's okay to need help, and that, it's, you're not, going to be looked at or judged in a negative way. We need to help you, but, you have to help us help you, type of a thing. So if you're going to do the campaigns and push that information out, I think it's really good, but I think everyone has to hear those conversations, and everyone has to do their part and to think outside of the box, because I wasn't necessarily trained to say, hey, you know what, let's just put a group of publications out there, and the first thing it's going to highlight is I want the ones that talk about fostering the foster ed programs to be up front, or the ones that talk about homelessness to be up front. Why? Because those are things that might catch a student's eye, or a parent's eye, or someone's eye, and they'll grab it. Usually we'll just say, hey, we'll give the information to all of our resources, and we go from there. So I've learned to move differently from just attending and learning, and I'm hopeful that, throughout, all of the different resources and messaging that's going out, that it's going to normalize it for everyone else, because we all need help at some point in our lives, and it's okay to get that help. So thanks for bringing that up, Kim.
Normalize.
Karen,
I love that term.
Yeah. And so Karen, I want to kind of continue on just a little bit about, why is it important to, for our school counselors and other K-12 folks to kind of pay attention to this work. And you've kind of talked about all of the basic needs, the collegiate basic needs. Lynette and Kim have done a really good job of kind of like breaking it out and laying the groundwork for our listeners to be able to keep up. But some learners, like we said, they have the food and the housing insecurities. Maybe there's mental health. Sometimes you just have, folks who are just having a hard time, and they can't quite figure out what the issue is. Why is it important for the school counselors and other folks in K-12 to pay attention to this work. Some would say, well, they don't need to know because the students haven't yet made it to school, but I think it is important. So if you could talk on that, that would be good.
I think this is a very important conversation for everyone in education at all levels. Those students that are 26 and parenting and attending college and working to access resources were high school kids at one point, and before that they were middle school kids and they were elementary kids, and they are really important people in our educational landscape in Pennsylvania. So I think that the work is really important, and I've learned a lot about, who's impacted in post-secondary. I didn't know that the average college age was 26. I think about the students that I prepared to go off to college and they were 18, 19, maybe they took a gap year and they were 20, but they were young people. We know that young people struggle, and we also know that post-secondary is incredibly important. We view education as the gateway to opportunity. Can we agree on that? Is that a consensus in our today? It's a gateway to opportunity, and we know how important it is. And I have some stats from Georgetown University to share with you. 72% of jobs will require post-secondary education and training in 2031. And they called it upskilling of the workforce.
And 2031 is not that far away.
It's really,
Yeah,
I didn't do the math. I would need my calculator, but no, we're talking under 15 years, right? This is
7.
These people will be in
7
their
years.
30s, right? Our young people graduating now will be in their 30s. It is, am I right? My math isn't awesome. But whatever.
We're in 2024, Karen.
2024. That's just not that far away. So they're going to need something beyond high school. 20% will require a high school diploma or less. 29% of jobs will require some kind of college or an associate's degree. 42% will require a bachelor's degree. So being successful in post-secondary is important for the people there now. It is important for the people that are going to be going there. When we think about needs, we talked about collegiate basic needs. Those students, again, were high school students at one point. And this information comes from the JED Foundation. Now, this could be its own podcast. Student needs and what kids are dealing with and how we're getting through all of this could be its own kind of standalone presentation. Very briefly, 10% of students have attempted suicide. Mental health needs are tremendous. It has gotten worse since the pandemic. It is the second leading cause of death for youth ages 12 to 24, which does capture that both high school and college group of students. Childhood depression and anxiety doubled during the pandemic. For the students who are struggling with depression, 60% don't have access to treatment. So when we think about collegiate basic needs, we see those needs reflected on the secondary level as well. So I think that the reason why this conversation needs to be happening is we need to know what are viable options for our students. We need to prepare them for accessing resources if they need them. We have students now that, to your point about, we don't always know. Students don't always tell their school counselors or their teachers or their folks in their school communities what they're dealing with. So we need to be able to have information available so they can access it when they need it or when they feel comfortable letting us know that they need it. So incredibly important conversations and really truly incredible work in just identifying that there are barriers that we can remove to increase the likelihood of success in post-secondary.
I would just add to that, Karen. I think, just to make folks aware, the PA Maslow website, and if you go to education.pa.gov/PA Maslow, and hopefully we'll be able to put it into the notes below. I think if you look at our website right now, it's kind of in the preliminary stages. Like I said, we launched in September. It really is a practitioner's website. And so what we would like to eventually happen is to focus on all of, like you said, K-16 education. Right now, it really has a higher ed focus. And the other thing is, as folks are having these conversations, don't be afraid to have students at the table when you're having conversations. So I'm going to be doing some school visits later this month. When I'm visiting the campuses, I not only want to meet with the president or the provost or others that are doing the collegiate basic needs work, but I also want to have a student panel. And I want to have a conversation with Pennsylvania learners. And it can be, you know, veteran students. It can be students who came right out of high school. It can be a parenting learner. All of those people at the table at the same time can really provide insight to how we can try to solve some of these barriers for students.
I think that's key. Hopefully they all show up and they're comfortable sharing, because you know the students may give you a totally different perspective and give you some things that they're experiencing. And it seems like post pandemic, like you said, those needs have been exacerbated and those experiences have too. So we don't think we're still collecting and figuring out how students have been impacted by the whole COVID time frame. And another thing I think is good is because you all, it's a Pennsylvania thing, the needs are different throughout the state. And that's, or throughout the country really. So, you know, just with our counties, I serve 8 counties. Some of the counties, you know, their greatest needs are, you know, something as simple as having access to the internet. Like you said, everyone does not have that in all of their areas. So there's that barrier just to be able to connect and complete a FAFSA or get their work and assignments done. Some areas, you know, the biggest need is, you know, they need resources for, you know, those in the mental health fields, and the counselor to the student ratio is just, we've talked about this in the past, it's not there. So everyone is exhausted, everyone has a need. So if you can bring all of those folks to the table for a discussion, I think that will definitely like move things along, hopefully a lot quicker, and have a bigger impact on everyone involved. So I like the work that you all are doing. I love the, you know, where you're at right now starting, and I'm looking forward to bringing you all back on so we can talk about this again, on like, well, you know, what comes next and where we're going. So you notice, Lynette, I'm saying that you all, that means that you're going to be a repeat person. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll come back. We'll talk about some of the progress that has happened with everything regarding PA Maslow. But as we're talking and we're getting into it, what are some of the things that the practitioners should be doing or asking now? Like, what can they do? Because a lot of folks don't know, what should they be doing? They want to do more, but you know, they may not know where to start.
I think I'd like to point out just very quickly, one of the resources we have on our website. If you click on our website, go to tools and resources, there is a checklist available on the website, and any higher education institution can utilize this checklist to really kind of do an asset map of resources on campus for your students. So a lot of practitioners, a lot of admission counselors, financial aid counselors, or student life folks, they may not know what is available on your campus. And so really providing that asset map. And so we give you some suggestions for things that you can take a look at. And so just really quickly, the PA Hunger-Free Campus that Lynette mentioned, do you have the designation on your campus? Why or why not? And then do you have a food pantry on campus? Where is it located? How do you direct students there? What are the parameters for how they can obtain food? Is it only open certain hours, or are there extended hours on certain days? Is your campus a JED campus? We talked about the JED Foundation a couple of times. The JED Foundation is a fabulous resource for mental health, for preventing suicide for students. So if you get a chance, you definitely should check out the JED Foundation website. But is your campus a JED campus? They will work with you to make sure that you have certain things in place for your students. That suicide prevention plan, Act 110 of 2018, is something that happened within the state of Pennsylvania. And we ask colleges and universities to provide their suicide prevention plans to us, and we post them on our website. We're going to be doing a lot more work with that program. The It's On Us PA grant program, that's a sexual violence prevention program. Does your campus participate with that? What are the resources?
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yep.
I mean, can I go back just because you did mention this, and I don't know a great deal. I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't know a great deal. We're going to learn more about it. But the Act 110 of 2018, is that something that's been mandated for all of Pennsylvania? All Pennsylvania campuses regarding the suicide prevention plan?
So it's not a mandate.
Okay.
It's an opt-in. And
Okay.
so what we're going to be doing, and Lynette, do you want to speak to how you're kind of revamping that program this year?
Yeah, so we really want to bring focus to this and just the importance of the work. And we want to turn it into similar to our PA Hunger-Free Campus, where you can be designated as a suicide prevention institution, and making sure that students understand where the plan is and that we can post it and just be one more resource. So we're really looking to revamp, launch it, provide those designations, the certificates, and really hosting those lunch and learns through PA Maslow to make sure that we're giving the institutions the proper resources and where they can reach out and get those supports throughout the entire Commonwealth to help their students. So another stay tuned, but we'll really be revamping. The plans are usually due in August. So look for that information this late spring.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And the reason that stuck out is because what really stuck out to me when Karen was talking, she was bringing up stats and statistics, and she was mentioning some of the statistics for, suicide attempts and things like that. And that was so alarming. So the fact that that was there, I'm glad you did elaborate on that a little bit. But Kim, please feel free to go back to the checklist, because I had pulled the checklist up myself and was going to ask questions. So on that, but you're already going with it. So please continue.
And I think the other thing I would just mention is, we have launched a lot of programming, and PA Maslow really allows us to just make sure we're getting things out in a very concerted way. We're really elaborating and making sure everyone knows about all of this. Like I said, Act 110, that came out. I don't know who was managing it at the time. I wasn't at the agency. And so we've been able to kind of pull these things together and really give them a home so we can revamp the programs and make them better for everyone. So other things that are on the checklist, if you have veteran services on your campus, that's a really important piece. We're going to be doing a lot more with veteran learners. And then, do you provide those housing opportunities for students when they're on holidays or on breaks? Do you have housing for parenting learners, or do they have to live off campus, but are there support groups on campus? And then we also mentioned the high-speed internet. DCED, the Department of Community and Economic Development, has launched a broadband authority. There is funding, and their main goal is to make sure that every part of Pennsylvania has access to broadband. So there's just a lot of things that you can kind of go through and check off. Yes, we do this. No, we don't do this. We've had this on our radar. This is in our strategic plan. That, there are a variety of things that a campus can look at. And then the other piece I would say is just make sure that you're training all of your staff and your faculty on these resources, and that as you have turnover on your campuses, that you're also training those new folks. So it's not a one and done. This is not PA Maslow and this is how it's going to live forever. We are going to be continuing to make it better and provide additional iterations. And I think campuses also need to kind of develop that mindset and just say, this is where it lives on our website, or this is where it lives on campus, and then just kind of, wipe your hands. I think it's always developing, getting those students at the table. What do we need to improve? And how can we make it better? So resource for everyone. I hope everybody will check it out.
Absolutely. And then for Lynette, what about the institutions of higher education? What are some of the questions that, they should be asking, or how do they prepare?
Yeah, great question. And I think institutions have to adopt a mindset. This isn't an add-on. This isn't a if we have. This is the work. This is the main purpose of the work that they do, and to support these students. So questions to ask is, as Kim said, what do we have? And what staff and faculty need to be aware of the resources that we have. It's working with things that are really so simple. We had a great conversation with the Pennsylvania Commission on Women, and they talked about period poverty. And we sat there, and just the thought of not being able to access feminine products. And we talked about that anti-stigma, and nobody wants to have to go to somebody to ask for this. So institutions can look at those simple means to put feminine products in each of the bathrooms so that students don't have to ask. Putting food pantries and access to food in high traffic areas that aren't stigmatized. It's not in a back classroom that's hidden and it's dark and it's down a hall where you'd say, why is that student going there? Making sure that it's access for all, and really working with your local community. You can have the most upgraded computer lab, all the digital broadband access, and yet a student may not have public transportation routes to get to the institution or to get to those areas. You might have great partnerships with local food pantries and area community services. And again, the student has no way to get to those areas because there isn't transportation. Bring the students to the table. They need to be part of this conversation, and they need to be the voice that is heard so that the institutions make sure that they're supporting them in the best way possible.
I agree with that. And I think it's really important, like you said, sometimes we provide a resource, but we don't provide everything so that it works and it's doable. I can just share and say that I volunteer a lot with different community organizations and things. And a lot of times, especially during the holidays, there's the food pantries or they're giving away food items. And it's a lot of times they'll say, hey, give us your non-perishable foods. And they're like, okay, but you have to be mindful. You're giving everyone these canned foods. Do they have a way to heat up the food? Do they actually even have a can opener? So it's, what good is giving them a can of something if they can't even open it or they can't do anything like that. You also mentioned the menstrual products and things like that. There's a local organization around here, and that's one of the things they focus on for those women and young girls who are experiencing homelessness. Because when you're thinking about providing for homeless folks, that's one of those things that doesn't come along with it. You still need your hygiene products to go along with it. So having those conversations, understanding the needs and being able to recognize them. And I don't know if that's going to be part of the education as well. How do you identify these things? Like maybe there's a student, are there certain signs that a person should look for? And hopefully that kind of education is there. Like, yeah, I remember volunteering with a group, and I was mentoring a girls group. And one of the things, we always provided snacks and food that went along with it. And one of the girls would always take everyone else's who didn't want it. And the other lady who was doing this along with me, were both kind of saying, I think she's hungry, and I think she's gathering the remaining food for, her siblings, but she would always wait until they went away on break, and then she would come back and try to grab the other stuff. So we just started having an extra couple of bags there with the leftover stuff available, and we would have her name on them on the side. No one knew, and as she's walking out, here, take these. You want a couple extra, and then we would also have some available for everyone, just in case. But we made sure she had hers. But it was noticing and recognizing those signs. So whatever it is, whether it's the homelessness piece, whether it's a mental health thing, or maybe someone's experiencing something else unique. I think it really helps when you have the folks who are to be able to assist and to say, hey, there could be something. Let's throw out a resource for them.
And that's a great point in recognizing and being aware of those barriers. And we visited an institution who had kind of like an Instacart type of grocery service where they can go online, order what they need, and then there were certain windows of time when they can pick up the food. And there was a student who constantly wasn't able to pick up that order. And finally they talked to the student, and she said, I work during that time that the food pantry is open and I can't make it. And she goes, I tried, but then the bus route doesn't run at that time, so I can't make it. So then they put evening hours in and they put weekend hours in so that they had more opportunities for that. We also had a great conversation just about terminology. On the institutions on campus, you might kind of, as a faculty member or staff member who may not have mental health experience, get kind of worried when you hear that word mental health and you're not the person to support them. But it's coming to as little as having a faculty member say to a student, hey, I noticed that you seemed a little down today. Is everything okay? Or I noticed you weren't in class. So there's things that don't require funding, but just simple changes in the way that we act and communicate with our students that can make a big difference and have a very positive impact. Another thing I just wanted to mention, we talk about policies and procedures and making sure that we're really taking away those barriers. And we talk about our parenting students and the average student being 26 and having flexible deadlines, having attendance policies that account for sick children, and having, we have to life, and making sure that life is including in those policies. So other questions that institutions can really ask are, can I look at my policies, or what policies or procedures do I have that are putting undue burdens or barriers on students? And how can I change them to make sure that they can persist and complete even when life throws challenges at them?
That's a big one too, especially post COVID. And hopefully everyone will continue to adjust and conform so that, you can allow life to happen and then be a support system for those who need it. Karen, I'm going to move to you because now we want to talk about the school counselors. What can they do? How can they assist their students? So what are some questions that school counselors can ask, or things that they can do to assist throughout this?
So, one thought that I had in listening to Lynette and Kim talk about all of this is the idea of self-advocacy. And that's been a conversation that I've had with students with identified perhaps learning challenges, but it carries over into this as well. So kind of supporting students and being their own advocates for what they need when they are on a college campus. We are okay with asking for extended time. We're okay with asking for a preferred seat in a class. But we could also make sure that we're communicating our need for perhaps housing that's closer to resources on campus and things like that. So I thought that self-advocacy was something I wanted to bring up. Some questions to be asking students when they think about post-secondary. And I think of this as being kind of like broad-based questions that I would be asking all of my students. Some would be kind of finessed because of I might know things about a student that would lend to them to the question. So here are some of the questions. For students with known concerns that might make post-secondary trickier to navigate, maybe that's financial insecurity, maybe that's homelessness, maybe that's some mental health needs that the campus would want to help with. A miracle question. Imagine what life would be like if your issue did not exist, your situation were resolved. How would things be different? And then take that kind of impression and use it to develop a plan for resource utilization. To achieve, and these aren't in any particular order, to achieve your career goals, how much time are you willing or see yourself putting into gaining the training, skills, and knowledge necessary? Are there barriers to that time commitment? What might be some barriers to you achieving your goals? What are some things that you do when you encounter a challenge? You will likely experience, and this is true for all students, you will likely experience personal and academic challenges while in your university, college, or program. Who might you turn to for support during challenging times? And if they don't have identified supports, as a high school student, it would be an opportunity to talk about campus-based supports. What are your strengths? What can you work from where internally can you pull to get you through the difficult times that you encounter in the future? And that's true for career. That's true for family. That's true for social situations. We all have things that we have to work on and improve and get through. And so I think that these are questions that could be meaningful to a lot of students.
Agreed. And not just students, like you said, just adults, anyone, because we all go through challenges in our life. And I do love the idea about the self-advocacy, because it's challenging as a student to really be able to speak up and, say, hey, this is what I need. This is where I'm at, but you have to learn to advocate for yourself.
I don't know,
and-
Tiffanie, if you do this, but when I was an access partner, I used to write out scripts for students. If you need to ask about your financial aid, this is what you actually need to say to them. Because I think sometimes we don't know what questions to ask. We know we have an issue, we know there's help, but we don't know either who to go to or how to actually phrase the question to get what we need. And so if we don't ask the right question, we might not get what we thought would be the answer. So I think that's really important to think about.
That is a really important one. And I don't actually write the script out for them. I have sessions sometimes where I say, let's do it together.
Sure.
One of the biggest ones was, okay, maybe you have a special circumstance. Maybe there's something unique going on with you. And we always say, reach out to those institutions of higher education, reach out to your financial aid offices and explain your scenario. And a lot of times if I'm talking to the students, they'll say, well, what do I say? Okay, well, let's draft something rather quickly. This is who you are. This is what your needs are. Like, you give them something and we kind of do it from there. And I think I like the idea of either giving it to them so that they can learn to do it on their own, or if you have the time and the space, I'll do it with them, because you're showing them right then and there how to get it done. And you can kind of like see what type of support they may need in getting it done. Okay, let's get it done. you have it, because sometimes they'll say, I need to do it. They sit down to do it, and it's kind of like they get overwhelmed with life and it doesn't happen. So I like that idea. But another part that you mentioned, Karen, when we were talking self-advocacy and sharing and support, recognizing, I think it's important for students to understand what their support looks like. Because sometimes you'll say, hey, I need some help, I need support. Well, maybe think through, what does support look like for you? Because it looks different for different students. And I think that should be part of the conversation. Hopefully, Kim, when you have the round table with a little bit of everyone, what does support look like for them? Someone says, oh, okay, we're experiencing homelessness right now, and we really need some support and help. Well, okay. Well, define that for us.
Oh,
Because you
I'm
kind of
writing it down.
don't know.
And I also think
Yeah,
about,
it's kind of hard.
schools are visited by admissions officers from universities and trade schools and programs. And how powerful it would be if those folks sat with students of all backgrounds to talk about their programs, how much it costs, the process of applying, as well as if you're experiencing these things, this is where you go, this is the support we have, this is what we've done to minimize transportation challenges, whatever, all the things, right? It would be just so powerful, because we have students in high school right now that don't have a need, but things change, life happens,
Right.
in 2 years or 3 years or whatever, however many years, there could be a need. And then what do they do? So
Right.
I just love the idea of normalizing the conversation. We've normalized accessing supports for accommodations for learning challenges. I think we just need to see that, kind of expand to include these pieces as well.
And I like how you say assume, because we assume that students may not have a need or may not want to talk about it. But if we change our mindset to assume that everybody has a need and everybody has something that they need to ask for, and as school administrators or financial aid administrators, that we put that out on the table, that here's your whole package, here is housing, here is food. And it's easier for somebody to say, thank you, but I don't need that, than it is for somebody to say, I do need this. So assume that everybody needs it and help pull that anti-stigma away.
That's a good point. And Kim had, I had heard research with you. I'm not going to remember where it came from. Maybe the Hope Center, that talked about collegiate basic needs from the frame of students didn't think that their need was as great as somebody else's need.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this big kind of experience happening where everyone assumes somebody else needs it more, which is that's such a gracious kind of stance, but it doesn't really reflect the true experience of those folks that are experiencing those needs. So I think if we normalize and take away those assumptions, then those students won't feel as inclined to remove themselves from the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. This has been a great discussion. So we've talked about like what the institutions of higher education can do, and some of us, but just folks in general who want to get involved. How do we get involved in this work?
So we would love to have folks sign up for our listserv. If you go to the PA Maslow website, there's a link where you can put your email in, and then you'll get periodic updates or grant opportunities or meeting updates, gatherings, those kinds of things. So we try not to inundate with too much email, but it's a really good way to stay connected to kind of what's happening within PA Maslow. And then we had also mentioned some upcoming things. We're going to be adding a financial pillar. So we have 6 pillars right now. We're going to be adding a 7th pillar of work. Financial really it's one of those things that intersects with a lot of things, but we really want it to have its own standalone concerted efforts. And then we're going to be doing some collaborative work with some organizations. So stay tuned for a Collegiate Basic Needs survey for all Pennsylvania learners, hopefully coming fall of 2024. And again, I mentioned that anti-stigma campaign that we have coming out. So just, stay connected to what we've got going on. And we're always looking for folks to present to the field, to share their ideas, to let us know what's happening at their campus. We love to go around. We love to talk to students. And so you can, invite us to campus. We'd love to see what you have going on.
This has been a great discussion. I thank all of you for being on here. because I knew about PA Maslow, but I didn't know everything about it, and I still don't know everything, but you all really have kind of like pieced it together so that I can then go on and share and direct folks to the sites and know what a little bit about what I'm talking about, as opposed to just saying, well, just go out there. But I appreciate you all for being on here. Any last parting words that from either of you that you think you want to share that we didn't cover or you want to elaborate on a little bit more?
I just want to say for everyone throughout the Commonwealth, collaborate, work to help each other, share resources, share ideas. And at the end of the day, when your main goal is to help and support students and residents of the PA, you can't go wrong with that action. So keep the conversation going and just keep advocating for our students.
And I want to acknowledge FIA, and I apologize for my technical issues. I hope that however I was frozen wasn't too horrifying. But FIA, just so appreciative of the work that you're doing to educate students and parents and guardians on the process of financial aid, and being so willing to partner with high schools and colleges and community partners to get this message out. I hope you know what a difference you're making, and how appreciated it is in the entire system.
You do. We feel it. You feel it from the students and their success and the parents, and from here, from you guys. So it's not about us. It's about the PA learners and the students in the future. So I totally agree, but thank you.
Yep. And I would just say that, I absolutely ditto that, but, we're excited to continue this work. It's a work in progress. We're always learning, we're always growing, and we're really, we feel really privileged to bring this to Pennsylvania, and to really connect folks, and be that tissue that connects folks across the state. So thank you so much for highlighting this program for us. We appreciate it, Tiffanie.
Absolutely. So to Kim, to Lynette, and to Karen, thank you once again for joining me today on the Higher Education Access Corner. I'm sure that all of our listeners are going to be well informed. Hopefully they all tap in and they provide their information, provide the support, be the support to the students and all our PA learners. For those of you who are tuning in and listening, thanks again for joining me today at the Higher Education Access Corner, and we'll see you soon.